So the actual list of messages is in state on chat, which means chat is the only component that is allowed to change that array. But we need to change that array from the form, right? But chat is the only component that's allowed to change it. So what can we do? Think about it for just a minute. What kinds of things can a prop be? A number, a string, an array, a Boolean, an object, a function. Sure. You can pass callbacks, right? You can pass functions to other functions. So why not pass them as props? We totally should. Yeah, it's a good time. I know you're excited, but you're embarrassed and think that your friends will make fun of you if you show your excitement. It's okay to be excited about this stuff. It's great stuff. So chat is the only component allowed to change state of chat. So let's do it here. Let's just add a method called add message. And what's it going to do? Kind of like what Add Acrobat did yesterday. So we know we can't just say this.state.messages.push, right? Instead, we need to make a copy of the array, push onto that, and then call this.setState. So let's make a local variable, const messages, that will receive a copy of this.state.messages using our friend, the spread operator. That makes a copy. So what that operator does without the square brackets is break an array into its various pieces. So if you put that inside square brackets, you're making a new array that contains the things you just broke out of that one. So it's a nice, handy shortcut for copying an array, because otherwise it just points to the same. It's just a reference to the same one in the same location in memory. So having done that, I can call messages.push. And for right now, I'll just push on a hard-coded message. ID, whatever. Try to make them semi-unique at least, so I'll just do date.now. Why not? Username. Let's say what? No, let's do Jiun. Let's see. How do you spell that? J-I-E-U-N? Hot dog. Well, this is a username, so I'll lowercase it. And the body of the message is, what do you say? What's something you would say? Me too. As soon as lunch is over, I just start thinking about how excited I am for dinner. I'm excited for dinner. Why not? All right. So it'd be nice to test this method before we go to all the trouble of passing it as a prop to something else. We totally can. We can totally test this in the console. Check this out. This is great stuff. React DevTools. Find our component, which is chat. Highlight it. We can see our messages down here and stuff. And look at this. $R. So remember $0 from the Elements tab? This gives us our component as the variable $R in the console. So $R is now our chat thing. I can say $R.state. There it is. So I can say $R.add message, parentheses, undefined. So we did it, we pushed it onto here, but then we never updated state, right? So this.setState What do we want to update in state? Messages. What do we want to set it to? This variable messages. And what did we learn yesterday? There's a shorthand for this. Yeah, you can just say messages if the key is the same as the variable name you want to set to it. So don't use the shorthand if you don't get that necessarily, but if you get it, shorthand's nice, especially for stuff like this in React. So having done that, open our DevTools, find. So I'm glad we tested that, since I forgot to set state. I'm glad we tested that before we did all that business of passing it as props and everything else. So let's highlight the chat component again. $R is there. $R.add message. Open close paren. There we go. She's excited for dinner. Run it over and over. Oh yeah. Back in our DevTools, if we look at this component, we see state now has 8 things in it. 0 through 7. Totally works. That's pretty exciting. We're getting closer to making a real thing. You sound like a jerk? Oh, yeah. We'll get rid of these soon. All right. So now we can do that, but we want to do it when the form is submitted, right? So we've written the method and it works. Now we need it to work when the form is submitted. So what do I do next? I need to call this function from somewhere else. So how do I get it there? Where does it need to be? The message form, right, is where the form is. So how do I put it there? A prop. So we'll call it add message. Now you could, of course, name it something else here, but that would be silly. So add message equals what? This dot add message. Not open close paren, right? We're not passing the return value. We're passing the function itself, so it's just like a callback. So message form will now receive that as a prop. So we'll get props in here. So that should happen when the form is submitted, right? So since we're adding more props here, I'll do that. So when I do that, I always line the closing angle bracket with the opening angle bracket. So on submit, camel case now, right? This is React. On submit equals what? Props dot add message. Let's see what happens. Doesn't matter what we type because it's a hard-coded message anyway, right? Just submit the thing. Oh, man, it refreshed. Oh, cuss. So close. So, this whole thing is just a function, right? But you can put functions inside other functions. They're just variables, basically. So how about before my return statement, I say const handle submit and make this the thing that actually handles it. And an event looking thing will be passed in here. Now, technically, what React passes in is not the raw DOM event, but React's wrapper for that event. But that's okay. It still gives us thing like event.prevent target. So, I mean, prevent default. Things like target and prevent default. So then we can make that call props.add message. So then on submit should be what? Just handle submit. Doesn't matter what we type, if anything. Submit. Ah, explode. Cannot read property messages of undefined. So, property messages of undefined. So what is undefined here? This dot state is undefined. Because this is not what we think it is inside add messages anymore, right? Add message. We tried this from the console. It was fine. But now we're calling it from all the way down here. And, well, what would we expect this to be, actually? If I call props.addMessage, this is probably going to be props, which is not what we want. So, that's okay. We can fix this. One way we could fix it is to just say bind this here. But that's not how we're going to do it. I promised you a third way of doing this yesterday. So here it is, and this is how we're going to do it from now on. This is a very new feature of JavaScript. It is not technically part of the ECMAScript standard yet, but it is going to be. It is far enough in the process that the committee's approved it and all that stuff. It's just a matter of time. It's in final review, so it's going to be in there, and it's probably going to work the way it works now. And since we're using Babel to process all our JavaScript, it's going to turn it into something that is compatible with older versions anyway, so it is safe for us to use. So it's a new feature called property initializers, which is just a new way of declaring properties on a class. So you can now do stuff like state equals some object, and that will set this dot state to that. And in fact, because of this feature, we actually don't need constructors anymore just to set state. You don't need a constructor unless you need to do something a little more complicated. But that's okay. We'll leave it as it is in these, but we'll keep that in mind. We can use a property initializer now to set state, and it's really setting this dot state. You just do this inside the class, outside of any methods. But that also means that to declare a method, you could use an equal sign. So I could say add message equals an arrow function. So this is how we're going to write our methods from now on. We're going to write them all as arrow functions, and then the value of this will be bound, and we'll follow it everywhere it goes. Even if it's passed as a prop, even if it's called as an event handler, this will be what we expect it to be. Is that in today's notes, the bit about property initializers? Okay, find that. Okay. There's a whole long thing about it, complete with a warning and stuff. But the warning is updated. So I think it made it into... Yeah. Cool. Cool. So hopefully that fixed it. Let's see. Whackety smackety. Yeah. No matter what we say, she just won't shut up about dinner. I understand. Not sure what it's going to be tonight. It's either pork tenderloin or chicken. All right, cool. So that does the thing, right? So we're adding a hard-coded message, but by golly, we're adding a message every time. So that feels like pretty serious progress to me. Let's commit it. Add a hard-coded message when submitting the form. Next step, actually add the message that we type in.